out for this. We haven't got it ready to go on the push button scenario here, so we'll just assume you've heard it. And Ryan Mobilia joins us now. G'day, Ryan. How you going?
Great, Craig. Yeah, it's very exciting to be here today.
Excellent. Now, we're going to have a little bit of an entertaining sort of segment going forward called MobsCave is the working title we're using. Because you're a very big collector of memorabilia, of basketball memorabilia from a number of years gone by. Tell us how you got involved in that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, so it's definitely something that's been a big passion of mine for a long time. Growing up in Victoria around, particularly, basketball in early 90s, there was a huge wave of interest in, the NBL, the NBA. Basketball was probably in the country at its biggest point it's ever been up until maybe now.
Yep.
Because there were these massive stars like Michael Jordan, Victoria, there was the Andrew Gazers, and the NBL was packed and everything was really exciting. There were lots of different things out there that you could collect and get involved with.
Yep.
This was pre-internet, of course, so there was nothing really online. So it started for me with a lot of things like magazines, things like VHS videotapes, collecting, the NBL records. Basketball cards was a massive one.
Yep. And they were interesting, actually, basketball cards, because they sort of tried to emulate the sort of footy card sort of stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure. And, they were everywhere, and you see them pop up now on eBay and you see them pop up now on Facebook Marketplace because all these people that grew up in that time have collected them and kept them and they were so proud of them.
Yep.
And now they're only realizing, actually I've still got all this stuff. But yeah, they were such a big deal because we just couldn't see the stars.
Yep.
Pre-internet, you just couldn't see them. There was no YouTube, there was no NBA League Pass, there was no Instagram.
Yep.
You had to collect them and see and learn about them in some way. So it was magazines. It was the basketball cards that had their details on the back, and you were really proud of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you? What sort of things did you think about when you wanted to become a collector? Like, obviously, you were a young bloke. Well, you're still a young bloke, but you would have had to sort of get your pocket money together and think about what you're going to invest your time and money into, and these sort of things just came along. What was your rationale behind getting involved in a collection like that?
Yeah, look, I think, it initially grew from, like I said, the fact that we just couldn't find any of this stuff anywhere. And I wanted to consume as much as I could. I kind of fell in love with particularly basketball, the sport back then, playing it a bit, and wanted to get every magazine that was available. And then I'd take, and I think a lot of kids did this as well, where I'd take the magazine and I'd cut out the poster and I'd cut out the pictures and I'd stick them on the wall, I'd stick them in the school diary, I'd stick them in a scrapbook. And that kind of came from where it all sort of evolved and got me really excited about it all.
Yep.
Other ways to enjoy it.
Yep.
Then I guess over time, things really evolved into, yes, this stuff's around now, but how can I continue to keep that interest and build up that collection? And really it came down to things that I had a great memory of,
Yep.
And that really was really important to it all. So it was stuff I had a great memory of. It was stuff that meant something to me, maybe something I experienced, something I'd really enjoyed being at. It could be something from an event or something, a piece of clothing that was related to a person. And yeah, that's where it kind of evolved to.
So you'd be very interested in how the league, the NBL in particular, has made a bit of a resurgence because, we're already talking about merchandise and that sort of stuff being part of the bigger experience, I guess, for the consumer. So I guess it would naturally come that some of those sort of memorabilia sort of tinkered items and things would start to come back into favour. I remember I had a little magic truck.
Yeah,
and they were the big
absolutely.
thing of those days, the magic trucks and the bobbleheads and all that sort of stuff. So there's obviously a market and an industry out there that's just waiting to be tapped.
Yeah, definitely, and it comes from that passion, when someone finds that they're really excited about whether it's an AFL footy team or whether it's a sport or something unique. It might be golf, it might be boxing, whatever it is. If you're really passionate about it, you want to have the things around you that get you excited about it and that you can say and show that you're a real fan. And I think the NBL will bring that stuff back, There's some great pieces that were out there back in the 90s around the NBL, like the trucks that you talk about, those little Matchbox cars. There was the series of Coca-Cola cans with Leroy Loggins on them and other players like that.
Yeah.
Even from 10 years ago or around that time, there were stuff out there from Cairns Taipans and South Dragons, Joe Ingles bobbleheads, little things like that are out there and around, and they're really exciting when you find them.
The Joe Ingles one will be very popular, I imagine. He might be coming back anyway at some point, so he might be in a different singlet than the bobblehead. But how do you put a value on this sort of stuff? Because I know my wife collects a little bit of Coca-Cola merchandise. She doesn't drink it that much, but just the sort of the collectible aspect of it. When you get these things signed by people, they're almost priceless, aren't they? Because you can't really put a value on some of these things. Is it hard to sort of realise? You've obviously got a huge collection at home. How would you value the collection you've got?
Yeah, look, I tend to think that for other people it holds a lot less value.
Mm.
You know, because it's all in the memories, it's all in the experiences. You know, that person didn't go to that game. You know, that person didn't meet that person and get that photo, that type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, it's the kind of thing where yes, there's valuable items in there, and you know, in their pieces. I've actually sold a few over the last few years, different things, but it was breaking my heart too much to sell them because I wanted them back not long after, so I stopped selling them because yeah, you just want to have that feeling around.
Point in time memory, I guess.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
So tell us a bit about your collection. What have you got that's sort of pride and place in the Mobs Cave?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a lot of basketball stuff, and it's not just basketball stuff, but it's, you know, there's footy stuff. I'm a Collingwood fan, so there's some Collingwood stuff throughout the years and different US sports and things like that. But basketball is the main one. Some of the things I'm most proud of and I really love collecting is the old basketball singlets.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you know the NBL ones from the '90s. There might be a Derek Rucker, Westpac. Razorbacks. You know, the Sam McKinnon, Southeast Melbourne Magic. The Andrew Gaze with the Kmart Tigers. The old Boomers singlet with the Smith Chips sponsor. Even some of the Opal stuff and the WNBL stuff. So that's the kind of thing that's one of them. You know, for me lately, and something that's really grown over the last year or so, I've been getting back into the old Space Jam stuff. Space Jam was a really big part of my childhood as well, and something I was, you know, really connected to, and I think a lot of people were here in Australia. And so I've been building that collection too. So there's little things like that have their little pockets and the things that I've built up. So.
And Space Jam, I think someone's mentioned there's going to be a sequel at some stage, I think next year or the year after. So that'll be exciting to watch, see what sort of storyline comes out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been in the works for a long time, I think. And so if that comes around again, it just brings that cultural aspect to it and, you know, connects it to the kids again, which is always a great thing. And they'll have their collectibles like they do now, things like Happy Meals and things like that. They'll have those collectibles and the next generation kind of gets involved.
So you'll be getting on the knees and just saying, "Can I have a Happy Meal, please?"
No, I'll be sending my kids in to get to. Yeah.
On assignment.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Do we see much collectible stuff from the European leagues? Much around for that, do you think?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's always generally kind of based around the general area, you know. So you see a lot less non-Australian stuff around here, and you probably see it similarly, you know, over in Europe. It's mostly Europe. In the US, it's mostly US. So it's generally based to the region. You can find that stuff out on eBay. You can hunt it down. Look, I've got great connections through, you know, MobsCave on Instagram, where I do my posting of my stuff. You know, there's people in the UK that engage with it. There's people in Japan. There's this fantastic collector in Japan. It's got this amazing Michael Jordan collection, even from, you know, the US obviously as well and around Australia. But it's generally the region based. You know, there's some great collectors in Australia. They might be based in Adelaide and have some awesome Adelaide stuff. Brisbane have Brisbane Broncos, Brisbane Bullets, all that sort of stuff. So that's the kind of way it goes.
So if someone's starting out and wanting to do some sort of collection like that, what are the things they have to consider? Obviously, space would be one of them, right? Having a room that's just basically available for collectibles. But is there anything else they need to consider if they want to try and get really passionately involved in a collection like that?
Yeah, look, I think about space, definitely. I've kind of moved towards more smaller things over the time, just because that's kind of I've moved around, I've done different things and collected things. So you think about small, but I think in the moment kind of stuff is really good. So if you go to an event, what memorabilia and merchandise is available that you can grab, whether it's a T-shirt from an event or or some sort of collectible from those things, because immediately you'll have a memory tied to it, even if it's keeping the ticket that you used. That's the kind of way to start. I also look out for things in the supermarkets. You know, you'd be surprised how many things are out there in the supermarkets as you go up and down the aisles that are connected to sport because of sponsorships and things like that. So you might be able to grab a Red Bull can that's related to car racing. You know, you might be able to grab a Gatorade that has got Pendlebury on the front or Gary Ablett. Little things like that can kind of get your appetite wet for that sort of thing.
Okay. So do you have any idea of sort of how your collection fits in? I mean, you got a world record or something like that in terms of collectibles? What do you think? Yeah,
no, look, I think there's a lot of stuff, you know, and it's accumulated over the years, but I think it's just something I'm just generally proud of, you know, in general. You know, if I laid it all out, yes, it's a pretty big piece of things, but there's a lot of small things. There's, you know, a lot of miniature characters, a lot of small figurines. There's a lot of, but there's some clothes as well and different things. Not a lot of bulky things, but yeah. So, you know, it's something that I'm really proud of and being able to continue on, because I worry that too many people have these things they're passionate about, whether it's trains or radios or, you know, got a friend who collects rubber ducks from around the world and shot glasses, things like that. They're really connected to the fun things you've done in your life. the opportunity to keep them around is really important.
So how do you come up with the idea? How do you counter the suggestion? Well, you need to really clean some of this out, Ryan or Craig or whatever. You really need to just narrow this collection down, or this it seems like you're hoarding stuff. What's going on? Like, how do you counter that sort of argument?
Yeah, look, it's definitely constantly kind of there, and I guess I've certainly been really lucky and try to keep things in an order that shows that I care about it, not that I've forgotten about it. You know what I mean? I think that's where you come up with issues is if you just strew things around everywhere. It's like, well, you don't even worry about it anyway. But a couple of the other tricks I've tried is not keeping it, things like the old fan cave and MobsCave, keeping one or two more spider webs in there than you usually would to try and dissuade other people from coming in, that type of thing. Not cleaning it as nice as you would. So little tricks like that to try and keep it to your own personal space.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. I like that sort of approach because I've got a lot of things I'm thinking, do I really need that? Yes, I do. Because, like you say, I'm a very point-in-time person as well. It's like you really have to just, enjoy it for the moment for what it is. And I've got a lot of ticket stubs and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes with photos and things, you can sort of collage stuff too. You can put photos with ticket stubs and all that sort of stuff. I've seen that around as well. How do you think that would work with a collection?
I think that's a really important thing to do because the worst thing in the world is to collect these things and then bury them away and never actually enjoy them. So there's no point to have them. So things I've tried, things like putting things over coffee table tops, putting them into frames, so I've got, it's not basketball, but a really good memory of mine is going to the 2010 AFL Grand Final as a Collingwood supporter.
Yep.
I've got the ticket in the frame, I've got the record in the frame and the sign they gave away on the day, and it becomes a really valuable piece of memorabilia for you and you can be proud to display it. So yeah, looking for ways that you can incorporate them into practical things around the house and even on the walls is really important.
So you need to have a basketball collection because the Collingwood memorabilia is probably not quite as big as it used to be. Not too many. There's a few cups in there though, isn't there?
Yeah, well, you find some things. I mean, the AFL for one does a great job with getting those collectibles out there. So each year new stuff comes out with the AFL. So there's always good stuff.
So what do you think is going to be the next big collectible thing that we're going to look at in terms of basketball? Obviously the NBA we've talked about before, but is there anything else that's coming along you think it might be? I mean, we talked about Space Jam as well. Where's the next big collectible thing? Is it going to be clothes, memorabilia, figurines? What do you think is going to be the next big thing?
Yeah, look, I think, as I said, the fact that so much is online now, there's a lot of stuff you can still really engage with the sport and not have to have the physical things.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, it's the shoes. And for me, it's not necessarily a big part of my collecting, but shoes is a big one, the shoes that people want to keep and collect. People line up for hours to get really exclusive access to these basketball boots and shoes. I think singlets will always be one because it's a really fun way for people to show and wear their pride on their backs. But so for me, it's around the clothing probably more than anything. Something might come along that's a little more hands on, but at that stage.
Definitely the clothing might be the way to go. And you can just put it in the wardrobe and just hide it away if you need to.
Well, you can wear it, so it's not exactly wasted.
You've got your Philly 25 t-shirt on as well, so showing the brand there as well. I mean, that's a good thing too, isn't it? Having that penetration from an Australian point of view into the international stage like that obviously increases the value of memorabilia like this. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you think about the Aussies that are currently doing really well in basketball. There's just more stuff out there. We just didn't have the chance to go and buy NBA singlets with Australian players on the back, and then on the flip side, have them potentially come back to Australia and be around us to, whether you want to get something signed or whether you want to get a photo with them. There was just no connection. It was all right. You're either going to get Michael Jordan, or you're going to get Shaq, or you're going to get Larry Bird, or you're going to get Magic Johnson. There was sort of a handful of NBA players that there'd be things available for, but you're never going to meet them. That type of thing. So there's more chances now.
That's good stuff. And Andrew Bogut's back in town as well, so we can go and get him.
Absolutely.
That sort of stuff. So we're going to look at doing this on a regular basis, the MobsCave segment. So I want to get a bit of interaction from the listeners. Maybe you've got something at home that you want to try and get a bit of an angle on, what it might be, we're not valuers, I guess, but just get an idea of the stories behind some of the memorabilia as well. So we might try and get some ideas there. So if you've got any ideas on some memorabilia that you might have, or someone who's got, just give us a bit of a story, and we can maybe just elaborate on it a little bit more and get a bit more information on the actual item you've got, and maybe maybe give an idea of how it all works in the scheme of collecting.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know that these people are out there, and they've got these things, or they had them, and they'll have these really great memories about them and what they did with them, and someone will be annoyed they don't have them anymore, but they'll have these great things that connected them to their basketball past. So it'd be great to hear from you. Check out the MobsCave on Instagram for some ideas, maybe even.
Yep.
And it'd be great to be able to chat to you guys.
All right, so we'll do that on a regular basis, and so give us some ideas on what some memorabilia you might have or you might want, and we can see if it's even out there in the universe of collecting. So something a bit different on the show as we look over summer. So Ryan, thanks for joining us as always, and we'll catch up again soon. And MobsCave on Instagram, and we'll obviously give you the details on our socials as well. If you've got any comments or any sort of feedback you want to get on the show, just get through the normal channels as well through our social media, either through Outside the Arcs or MobsCave, and we'll have a look into it for our regular segments.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, that's great.
We're going to take a quick break and back shortly with more. Listen to your local station, 88.6 Plenty Valley FM.